It is incredible. This is the internet, and my computer is lagging. Of course, it is lagging because this is the internet. In any case, what's good is that I actually managed to connect in fairly decent time, and it actually is connecting on actually all three places. That is Twitch, that is YouTube, that is Facebook. Incredible. Um, and I have fermented grape juice here. Just one glass. It's very good for the health, allegedly. So salute. Um, don't have too much of a set agenda, but I realized that I was missing doing the live streams, and some of you have been missing them too. So I'll be doing them, and I'm. We live in a weird time. Um, I've realized so much from stuff that people write in general, but also you know here and there. And the reason why I get confused when this stuff is showing is because I get like a really loud alert, like and I can't turn it off because I'm an idiot, so I can't. But in any case, we live in a strange time where, well, you know how it is. I mean, it's pandemic, and that's it's shit enough. But we also live in a time where uh, people have alternative versions of the truth, and that is fine. That's called opinions. You can be say you are the president of a country, and you have a weird idea of stuff. But still, I mean, that's your opinion, and you're entitled to it. Everybody's entitled to different opinions, and but the problem is when we are also reaching alternative facts. I won an election, but you had fewer votes. Then of course you can claim fraud. All of this, you know, it's weird, but you can do that. Uh, but the problem is alternative truths. That works. But we have alternative facts. At some point, it's going to be a shit show, which it is now in the U.S., where you have a president who has lost an election and can't really take that, and then goes to court and say that I won this and that state, and that state, even if it's a Republican state, will say, well, no, you didn't. And what a fucking time to be alive, where you have those people in office, and they can't even agree on the same facts that the rest of the adult world does. That then we're gonna have a problem, and of course that problem, the Russians saying that the fish rots from the head. Um, so of course people cannot be expected to be much better, and when we live in a pandemic, it's a problem when we have alternative truths. Well, fine, we're not all virus experts. I sure ain't. But when we have also alternative facts that well, I have other facts on how many are sick or whatever, then it becomes shitty. And we need to say no to alternative facts. Alternative truths, yes. Opinions, we can discuss that, but we need to agree upon at least facts. If we can't agree on that, then it's going to be complicated. And if you have alternative facts and you write to me and you're stubborn, I'm going to be extremely disappointed, and after a while extremely angry or extremely silent, because I don't like alternative facts. I like alternative truths because then I can learn something if we are respectful towards each other. But you can't say that well, I have other statistics on pandemics than you have. Okay, well, that's weird. Where did you find them? On YouTube, some gritty video from 82, or the open data that's there? But then, I mean, the facts might be the same, and we still can have very different opinion on how bad is this, what should we do, blah blah blah. But that's constructive. We can discuss that. But if you have alternative facts, then it becomes complicated. But it's hard to say that people shouldn't have alternative facts when you have a fucking president in the U.S. and he seems to have alternative facts. Bad. And I'm not saying Democrats are much better than Republicans. That's politics, but at least you got to be decent. That'll be helpful. In any case, and this is not going to be a political pod. In any case, KK, it's good to see you here. Jane, it's good to see you too. Hello, or how is it said in perfect Danish? I'm not sure. And I think Dankthrone was here, and I suspect Dankthrone is residing in Nizhny Novgorod currently, right? I am transmitting my blab from Stockholm, Södermalm, which is the best island in Stockholm. You should Google it and just print it out and just put it up on your wall, because it's the best island. Everyone in Stockholm agrees this is the best island. Dankthrone relocated to Chicago. Well, hello Dankthrone. So this is the problem with aliases. You never know exactly who's who. So Chicago. Cheers. Stockholm or Södermalm, that's where I'm sitting, and I am gonna be transmitting from this, alternative facts and opinions and stuff. The pest ministry in Sweden have issued that, 2021, next year, will be a fucked up year. We had one journalist, or I wouldn't call him that, like a chronicle person. He said that, our pest ministry, they are called like the Institute for People's Health, whatever. They must be the most disillusioned governmental agency in the world. They're so pessimistic and they're so boring. But I guess it's a boring job. And pandemics are like a boring subject. At least, it's not thrilling. I guess it's thrilling, but it's not super fun. But 2021 will be a fucked up year. Hard to say how fucked up, but it will be fucked up, and we better, brace for it. So I'm bracing for it. And in my case, that means I will be, streaming on Mondays, talking not so much about pandemics and politics, rather I will talk about metal. Because that's something I care deeply about. I don't care so much about politics. I might have some care, but I care more about, the pursuit of science and of truth, in the sense that not truth, facts. Truth, everyone is entitled to their own one. And let's see, the chat is very small, I guess. I will try to fix that. I'm extremely, as you know, super advanced when it comes to computer usage. And now I fucked it up. But I think there will be like bigger characters if you write something. Write, something. Hello. Binan, thank you. It's bigger now. I also hoped it would be, like different colors for different names, but no. It's just too much to ask for. I guess I need to buy a plugin or, become better at this. Whatever. But in any case, I am happy to be here, and I'm happy that there are a few guys of you as well. Some on YouTube, some on Facebook. Don't think anyone is on Twitch yet, but it's been a few. So Jimmy, do you know a lot of musicians who live of their money, who had to get a normal job? Actually, I would say most musicians that I know never lived off the music. They had extra income and they were happy about that. Don't think any of I know a few bands that are like professional that live from their music, like the guys in Amon Amarth, for instance. They're still doing fine, and I think they those that are able to live from it, they do make a lot of money, or their companies or their bands make a lot of money. But I think some are on the breaking point where they can no longer hope for this to turn. So I think you will see not so many musicians, because most of them haven't been able to live of it, but like stage sound technicians, light technicians, that type of crew are now at the point where they are looking for other means to sustain themselves for a bit, I think. Um, so I think, well, if you look on, the level of Netherbird, that tier of bands, most of us have actually more money in the pocket because we haven't been able to tour, and tours are costly. But now, so far, I think those that live from the music are still doing that. Those that don't are saving some money by not touring. But then again, you spend it in the studio recording albums. So as far as I know, that's how it is. Um, Sorry, maybe 2021 will be good for metal. Yeah, ironically, 2020 has been a great year. It's been a lot of great releases coming, and I think there will be no shortage of good new albums next year because, Netherbird will release an album because we've been bored. I know Wormwood, close friends of mine, will release a really cool album next year because they've been bored. So a lot of us have ended up, with more time on our hands, and since we can't tour, when we can't stream doing this blubbing thing all the time, then I think you will see a lot of albums coming out next year, and it's it's the expected thing, I guess. But I hope we can at least tour a little bit before we do the next album. So this pandemic can't last forever because it would be fun to perform some of the tunes live. Samurai Panda Guns. Hello, Jane. Hope England is treating you guys nicely. In Stockholm today, it's cold for the first time. I think, more or less, it's been below zero, so it's freezing, but it's just like -1, -2. So it freezes you to the bone, but it's not actually it's not going to be snow anytime soon, I think. But the winter is here, definitely. Non-Serviam, so Ricardo, next year we will also release some albums. We kick off for Perennial Isolation. Send me a link so I can listen, Ricardo. You have a lot of stuff happening. That's cool to see. Non-Serviam Records, Dutch label. We haven't had beers for some time. Because I haven't met people for some time. But hopefully next year. So what's on the agenda today besides me rambling? Not much, actually. Are there years you don't release albums, Ricardo? Don't think so, right? I think you're pretty productive. You're one of those labels that do push out a lot of music. But you can answer that. Go ahead, talk to each other. I promised to talk about, because early on, I think it was Zorn from Zornheim who said, you should talk about the different releases you did with Netherbird. And I talked about the Boulevard Black release, and then I sort of lost the thread. But now, since we have tons of time, we'll talk about this release. It's a little bit reflecting here. This is the Blood Orchid picture disc. So it's a vinyl, and it's actually on the other side, it's the Boulevard Black. So just tell you a little bit about this. This was the second release that Netherbird did in... Damn, when was it? I need to Google. I think it was in 2006, but let me double check that. It would be... This is the type of thing, this is why musicians, when you meet someone who's actually like your music, they are much better at knowing stuff than you are yourself. This is why me and Jeff in Carcass ended up in a heated discussion some years ago about Napalm Death. Because I'm a huge fan and he's a friend of the band, and huge fans tend to know better than friends the exact data of everything, which I did. I was right. He doesn't know that and he would never admit it, but I was right. Blood Orchid was released in 2007. So there you go. I didn't know that. I did. We recorded it in 2006, and it was the second release we did, and it was still with Bismarck, me, and Grim in the band, and we recorded it because Grim at the time, I love Grim, we all love him, but he is not always the easiest guy to deal with, so he wasn't too keen on going to Stockholm to record, so we had to bring the recording gear to the countryside where he resides, out actually in a very, very small village. I won't say which one, doesn't matter. But we recorded it there, and actually during the recording his mother fell very ill, and she passed just a few days later. But he still decided he really wanted to record the music. That was his best way, I guess, of dealing with the entire trauma. So in that sense it became very special. We were out in his little house in the countryside recording, and we did still not really know where Netherbird was going at that point, but we did, and we recorded 3 tunes, Blood Orchid and Ash and Nectar, which were like twin songs that were the second and third songs written for Netherbird. Tertia, hello. And I get this nice jingle. I need somehow to share it with you guys. But those were 2 songs, and I remember when we left the studio, we drove, when we did the Boulevard Black EP, or song, we played the demo tracks for Bryce Leclerc, who used to be he was in Dissection previously, and we were listening to it, and we all said, fuck, it's a great riff in Ash and Nectar. But in the end, Ash and Nectar didn't come out as strong as Blood Orchid did. And this is the strange thing. When you hear the demos, you hear something, and then the finished song can be something completely different. We also did those 2 songs, and we also recorded a cover of Conquest, Love and Self-Perseverance, The Gospel of Aptitude, Ordo Rosaurus Equilibrio cover. All 3 tunes are, let me see, available also on this little compilation disc called Hymns from Realms Yonder, which is like all the tracks. No, it's not actually. Just the cover tune is on this one, and the other 2 songs are on the Ghost Collector. There you go. So actually both Ghost Collector and Hymns from Realms Yonder are like collection of recordings, but yeah. In any case, that's for another story. The influence in the beginning of Netherbird, it's funny because today marks exactly 16 years since the inception of the band. No, actually, that's a month ago. It's funny. The reason why I think so is because when we create the Netherbird, that was on the Rebirth of Dissection gig in Stockholm. And for some reason, they printed the wrong date on the back of those shirts. It said the 30th of November, but the gig was actually on the 30th of October. Well, I would say, when we created Netherbird, the only goal was to make harsh music and not be this typical band that grinds in the basement and becomes angry when we try to settle on a logo. Instead, we were also fed up with that type of band, so we wanted to do something completely different. These days, Netherbird is like a normal band. Not that saying that we are fighting in a basement, but we wanted to do music without, thinking about who will be able to play this on drums. Will our drummer survive or not? Instead, we wanted just to write the songs and then record with whoever had the time. Our influence was still then, as it is today, early 90s Black Death, Scandinavian extreme metal. No doubt about it. And I will let you know a little bit about my influences later on. But like for instance, I mean, an animated Winterland dissection. Lasse, hey, congrats on your medal, by the way. Um, and like all those bands, and I think we also we were a little bit inspired by bands like Dimmu Borgir, early Cradle, all of these bands that sort of combined different elements of black death and other like doom, whatever. Uh, and that was like the basic formula of what we wanted Netherbird to be. And then we have made like a little bit of a journey where I think we lost ourselves a little bit into wanting to do something too tight and too dry productions and stuff, but we a little bit too heavy on the keyboards. I think we agree upon that today. But then back in those days, we tried different things out, and some stuff we liked and we kept that. Some stuff we didn't like so much and we didn't keep that. So. And Netherbird today is 16 years old, so it's still a teenager and still, finding its identity, I would say. And Animated is definitely, I would say, maybe it's the most obvious influence, actually, because they're very melodic driven and yet still very harsh. I still see Netherbird mostly as a heavy metal band with harsh influences, but people label us as, melodic death, melodic black metal. I'm fine. But I see us as more of, a heavy metal band, actually. But in any case, we recorded that stuff with Grim, the guitars, and that ended up to be the last recordings he did for Netherbird. But that's a later story. So we went our separate paths. Because he never liked the attention that Netherbird got. He's never been craving record deals, or he's not, at least in those days, he was just not interested in success in that sense. So whenever, when things happened and I was really happy about my my ability to land us record deals or whatever, the more I succeeded with that, the less interested he was, actually. Because for him, it's always been something completely different. It's just this catharsis of him writing the songs and playing them, and then he's sort of not interested anymore. So you're amazed about the different vocals I was doing in the beginning in the first two albums. Yeah, in the beginning I really did more variated vocals. I did growl and high pitch and everything in between. I would say I tried different things out, and some stuff I liked more. Some, I would say, on the next album there might be a few surprises that you might welcome, Sylvia. We'll see. But for some albums I kept very mid-level registry. Don't say heavy metal. Okay, well, it's extreme fucking heavy metal then. Well, we are a very harsh rock and metal band, and of course people would say black metal or death metal, and that's our main influences. But not only that. Who knows where we'll be in 10 years? I won't tell anyone though. That's good, Binan. Any case, we recorded the guitars with him, and that was fairly special, given the context of it. And then, because we recorded the guitars first, and then we enlisted Moyo, who's these days he's the drummer in Catatonia. He also been the drummer in Lord Belial. He's been the drummer of the project Hate. He's been in Grind Next. He's been in Rune Magic, million bands. Extremely competent drummer, and because I thought we need someone who can play really, really fast, because actually people don't always realize how quick some Netherbird stuff is, because we produce it pretty neatly, but if you try to play it on drums, it's this EP, this really quick stuff, you need to be able to grind, and he could grind. But when we recorded it, he showed up with like the tiniest drum kit, because I always envisioned, a million tom drums. You should have like at least 28 tom drums and a billion cymbals. And he shows up with a tiny little drum kit with just cymbals and a floor tom. No tom drums at all. Just snare, bass drum, double kick, floor tom. And he just keeps... he does his fills with cymbals instead. It's extremely special, but he's also extremely... He was so quick in, capturing what we wanted. So... a lot of the stuff on what you hear on those songs are actually Asher Nectar is a one take. He didn't even have to redo any part of it. He just did it. Extremely proficient in his way, and he plays very special. And and not interested in doing long drum fills. And it was a funny experience to record with him, but he really nailed the stuff really quickly. The cover tune, he didn't even know that we wanted to record, so we just said, here is like a double kick and blah blah blah, and he did a try and he failed, and then the rest that you hear is a one take. He just went in there and nailed it, and packed up his little drum kit, went home, and that's that. Still in contact, but seldom these days, and I'm not surprised he's in Catatonia. He can play any type of drums. Extremely, he has skills beyond belief. You can hear there are some, on these tunes, there are some more progressive parts, and we just play jazzy. And it's like, nah, I can do that. And what you hear is what he interprets jazzy as. And that's just, every drummer is a special beast. They all bring their strength and their talent to the project. You never really know, and you're in the hands of them. I can't do it, so whatever the recording ends up being, that's what it's gonna be. So you just gotta hope that the drummer will drum something that you really like, because it is what it is. So it's interesting and fun. And I would say listen carefully to the drums on Asher Nectar and Blood Orchid, and you'll hear a lot of stuff there that it's just small subtle stuff, and you won't hear much tom drums because there aren't any, because he decided he will only use a floor tom, and that was fun. I didn't think it was possible, but it was. The bass player on those recordings, you might have heard about him too. It's Skinny Disco from Death Stars, who decided he needed to play some more gritty stuff. Old friend of ours, so we just asked him. I think he found it to be a bit of a challenge to play it, because there are it's not very simplistic stuff, but he went in there into the studio and nailed it. And I wasn't actually there when he recorded, but in the end product, you hear some Skinny recordings as well. And it's funny because people they know him from Death Stars, but he really likes metal and all senses of it, and and here he got to play some more extreme metal. And I know that he's been told several times on tours with his main band that they were surprised to see him play, this sort of extreme metal. But for him it was just great fun. And for us also. He's a really nice guy. I'm always happy when I meet him. We're not very close, but he's a cool guy, and listed him as a disc jockey at some point, because he just brings a certain air wherever he is. People are happy to see him, and he always is able to play stuff that makes people move. So it's great. Who else was there? Well, actually, this was the first time that Tobias, who's now the lead guitarist of Netherbird, this was the first time he was part of Netherbird. So that's like 13 years ago. He went in and played a solo on one of the tracks. Track 2, that should be Asher Nectar, yeah. And then it's Kitty Sarek. She did some vocals on Blood Orchid, and she also did the cover tune is a duet, because the original is a female-male duet. So we did a female-male scream growl duet. And actually the lowest growls on that tune is hers. She is extremely good. She has this timing and this I don't know, she's better musically than I am. So when she went into the studio, first off, she's super skinny, super tall, and super casual. She was young when she did this. I don't know exactly how old, but she shows up, she does her shit, she's super unimpressed by everyone. She's just, an extreme metalist who does her stuff. And she can scream like few others. So both me and Bismarck were pretty, like, wow, she's good. So it was fun to record it, and it was fun that she said yes. And we still haven't been able to do any live shows together, but at some point, hopefully, it will happen. You should check out her band is Decadence. It's like thrash death from Sweden. They've done 6 albums, very much, tongue-in-cheek sort of high energy. Check it out. Decadence, Sweden. Talking about Tobias, is Eucharist still alive? That's another Tobias, but yes, he didn't play on this one. He joined later on. Tobias Gustafsson, which is a very common name in Sweden, because there is a Tobias Gustafsson, of course, who plays drums in Vomitory and other bands, and Tobias Gustafsson also played in Fear the Future, another one. My band, or even he played also in Benighted, band I had in the 90s. In any case, this Tobias Gustafsson is the bassist of Eucharist, and Eucharist is like, they were the kid brothers of At the Gates, actually, literally, because it was Daniel Allanson's first band, the kid brother of Adrian Allanson, who played drums in At the Gates, and Daniel played in Eucharist, and they were a little bit more progressive. I don't know if Eucharist is actually active. I know that the guys did a reunion gig, and it was amazing. It was so fun to see them play, and I'm a huge fan. They only did 2 albums in the 90s, and then of course Daniel, the drummer, is mainly occupied with Arch Enemy. But I know that Tobias would love to play more, but I don't know if they really are active or anything. You should ask them. And I would love to see more recordings with them, and especially would love to see them play live more. But I think it's the schedule of having a drummer in fucking Arch Enemy makes it difficult, even though I do think the guys would like to play more. And keep the questions coming. I'm just blabbing here. But that was a little bit about the Blood Orchid that we did in 2000. We recorded it in 2006, released it in 2007. So if you want it on vinyl, it's available. Picture disc don't sell so much, actually. They should, because they look amazing. You can make a beautiful clock, and you get like Boulevard Black as a bonus. The cover artwork is done by a French girl, Mélie, who took some photos and cyborged Louise, which is the model. It's the same photo actually on this one, but that's an American girl whose name I can't. I need to Google it. It was phenomenally fun in those days to just collaborate with people. But you can hear Blood Orchid in its entirety, of course, on on Spotify. And speaking of Spotify, we got something called Spotify Canvas. So if you check out our tunes on your phone, you will see that we have animations behind, like instead of the cover art, we have some animations. So I don't know exactly why Spotify let us have that, because that's like for Usher and big artists. And all of a sudden we got access to it. So now we need to make videos. So if you have the time and you want to make, help us out with a little video, let me know. The videos can be a maximum of 8 seconds long, and they need to loop. So they loop for the entire song. We'll try to do something fun with it, but we don't have a huge art studio just working with our video productions. So we'll see. Another thing, because there are a few of you, if you mail me at nefente@nederbird.com and say I want one, you can have one of these books. I have 3 left, because the reason why I would like to gift them away is because, first off, I like books. That's why I make books, and these books are just all the Nederbird lyrics to date. But since we have a new album coming up, there will soon be a new edition, slightly thicker, but also slightly more expensive, because these 3 are free. So if you send an email at nefente@nederbird.com, I will happily send you a signed version of this, because I love ink on paper, and that is why I want it to still be something you can touch, even though 95% listen on Spotify, which is fine. I've talked about Spotify. I like Spotify. I had an employee from Spotify visiting me just the other week. She listened to the podcast and she said, well, it was interesting. In a non-threatening way. Because Spotify are people as well. A lot of them are actually, they do care about music. And like I said, I think Spotify is part of the solution, but it's not the entire solution. If you want bands to thrive, you need to buy stuff from them. In any case, so if you want a book, let me know and I'll happily send you one. And I'll keep doing these books because I think books are fine. Because you can rediscover a book in your bookshelf 10 years later and it's like, Blood Orchid, I need to listen to it. That doesn't happen with digital music. I mean, of course, you can rediscover it on your computer, but a thing in your shelf, that's something different. Oh, I talk so much. So how are you guys doing? Are you coping okay with this pandemic? The life we are living currently? Okay, you're much welcome. Try to make a short loop. We'll talk about it. I can write to you. But 8 seconds. And the format is strange. It's like 9 times 16, so it's like a standing thing. Shit virus. Yeah, it's shit. And it's shit because it limits life, and it's tough. And the best thing we can do is try not to go insane, or spread fear, disinformation, madness. Trying to stay sane, trying to stay, I wouldn't say positive, but at least you can be optimistic. We'll get through it. But it makes life less fun and free for the time being, regardless of where we live in the world. But we're all stuck in the same shit together. It's not more fun in Stockholm or in Moscow or in New York. It's the same. And also, I mean, we have a lot of people in white coats working really hard to get the vaccines. So and that will help, but it will, even when we get them, it will take some time before enough people are vaccinated, and before we will have to live with the fact that this illness will be around, and it's really hard to eradicate it. The optimist says, now everything is so bad it can't get worse. Yeah. You never know, it can get worse. But yeah, I would say we will get through it. I am very optimistic about mankind's ability to handle shit. We've been through the Spanish flu, the Asian flu, the Hong Kong flu, a lot of these pandemics. We will get through them, and hopefully we'll get through them without the huge amount of loss of lives that we had in those days. We lose some freedom, but hopefully we don't lose our lives. And these days we have at least Netflix and HBO or whatever to keep us occupied. And you guys are lucky because you have Nefente, this amazing vocalist who live streams and drinks fermented grapes. Cheers. Now we will get through it. It is fucking tough. I mean, every concert we had this year has been cancelled, and already now we're getting cancellations for the beginning of next year. But I mean, if that's the worst, well, I think, you know, there are people who suffer through war and starvation. We'll get through it. I really look forward to being able to go out, you know, just have a casual beer with friends and watch, you know, some band that I can complain about or whatever. I really look forward to that. But for the time being, it's just trying to stay sane and try to, you know, not get carried away in this madness of the online media where people are really losing their shit. Don't lose your marbles. Try to stay, you know, sane. And we will get through it. If you mail with technical details, yes. I also really hope they will support the bands, and like I said in my Spotify talk, also the labels. I think it's very important that you as a fan try to buy your albums directly from the band, or I would say in at least in our case, even better, from the label. Support the label, because bands need labels to not survive, but to have more people engaged in working with their music. For us, it's extremely important that the label is also doing well. So it is important. So support the bands, but also support the rest of everyone who makes, you know, the scene thrive. If you still have a paper magazine that writes about metal, buy it, because if you don't buy it, it will be gone. In Sweden we used to have two good magazines, Close Up magazine and Sweden Rock magazine. Now one of them is bust because not enough people bought it, and that is Close Up. So now we are stuck with one magazine. Still, it's a fine magazine, but we need to invest a little bit of money if we want the scene to thrive. I talk so much, and that's I guess that's why I'm streaming stuff. But I said that I'm gonna also talk about a few classic albums, and I will, because I prepared stuff. And I won't get through the entirety, but I will just mention a few like pivotal albums that really made a difference for me when I grew up, and that are still extremely important. And I think you can trace everything that I bring into Netherbird from these albums. There are like 10 of them. I'll mention them. But see, I'll also try to write. I think in Denmark, at least, the COVID is, and also the whole, people are aware of how important it is to support artists. Yes. Black Sabbath. Yes. Black Sabbath. What I think about it. To be honest, now I'll curse here. I really like Black Sabbath as an influence and as one of the bands that made everything happen. But me, myself, I'm not a huge Black Sabbath fan. I would lie if I said I am. I'm not a huge fan of Led Zeppelin or Beatles or Rolling Stones or any of these bands because they were before my time. I do like several Black Sabbath albums that came later. And Live Evil, for instance, that's, with Dio, that one really spoke to me because I heard it at the right time. But the previous stuff, I heard it just, later on in life when I was older. And I mean, I like it, but for me, it's more like novelty music. It's not, I don't listen to the first 4 Black Sabbath album often, or at any point actually. But they were important for bands that are important to me. So, and I think that the same will go, one day when someone asks, the Zombieland, and people's like, yeah, no, that was before my time. But I heard some bands that were very influenced by Dissection, and I respect them, but I love this Stormbirds or whatever the band is. They are very important to me, but I respect Dissection for creating that sound. So that is my honest answer. It's an unpopular opinion. I should say, I fucking love them, but I don't have so much of a connection to them. I like without Black Sabbath there wouldn't be black metal. Without Black Sabbath, it certainly wouldn't be any stoner rock or stoner metal or drone or anything of that, or doom metal. They created everything. But just like with the Beatles and the Stones, they were a little bit too early for me. So for me, when I hear them, I can say, yeah, that's cool. But it's not speaking to me the way Dissection is speaking to me, or the way that Carcass is speaking to me. But I'm sure that they spoke to a lot of the bands that I really like. So that's my honest answer. Sometimes, believe me, fans don't know how to support bands. I learned everything about Spotify support here from the event. Well, I'm an awesome person. Sorry. Okay, that's... I think I can give my idea of the truth. Alternative truth. No, at least I try to stick to, objective facts, but then the interpretation is my own truth, my version of it. Everybody has their own. The same with Bathory. People would almost hate me just because, well, actually, Ricardo, I don't like you very much because you don't like Bathory. That the thing is, I've seen you post this before, and it's gutsy to say that you have no relationship to Bathory. That is potentially problematic. But I also know if I say I'm not, a huge fan of the early Black Sabbath albums because I wasn't there, then I know it's a bit of a sensitive subject, because I do respect that people can be into it. And I mean, you cannot say I think Black Sabbath sucks. It's not possible to say that if you like any metal or heavy metal or hard rock even. Then you have to say, well, I understand they are great. But yeah, for me it was a little bit before my time. I can feel the same actually with, I would say Led Zeppelin is a good example. Uriah Heep. Are you into anything like Kraft, Python Forest, Uge Hall? I love that music, but I am like not the best when it comes to giving the most examples. I would say go to swedishmetal.nu and see what Fredrik Kehm suggests, because he knows everything about this type of sound. What should I say? Bölse. I like it crude. This is also the reason when you say Kraft, Uge Hall, this is why I can't say that Netherbird is a black metal band, because this is black metal. Netherbird is melodic extreme metal, but it's not this sort of more raw, true, grittish black. I need to think. let me come back next stream and I will have some suggestions. Yes, Shude. Well, Take, 2 A's. Also great. Take also uses a banjo in one song, which makes him or Höst, who is Take, who is just the singer of Take, but still also Take is Höst. Höst is Take. Really great. Yes. And actually, if you see that I can react much quicker to the chat, it's because I now use low latency on YouTube. But I don't even know it. Yeah, Non-Serviam, you are on YouTube. Yeah, so it's quicker now than it used to be. There will never be a shortage, I think, of bands in the Kraft vein. Because it's such a... Those bands that like that and play that, they keep really clean. You don't do a lot of, oh, we did some dubstep in our Kraft album. That's never gonna happen. So there is a lot of... I mean, if you like a song with a band, most likely you will like almost everything they put out because they're purists in that sense. But Ricardo Non-Serviam Records is a person with a lot of insights into the scene also. So Iron Maiden. This is interesting. I will just, before I give you at least one classic or two classic albums, I can say that in 1990, my band Toxic Breath, my first band that played like thrash death, I was in the local newspaper wearing an Iron Maiden shirt. And I got so much shit. Because in 1990, that was unacceptable if you played more extreme music. Iron Maiden was losers and dorks and not cool at all. 30 years later, the opposite is true. You gotta love them, otherwise you're a heretic. I liked Maiden in those days. I loved the first albums, not the first albums actually, but from Peace of Mind up until Seventh Son of a Seventh Son. Fantastic albums. Then I lost interest and I delved more into other stuff. Now I sort of rediscovered and realized that Maiden still does, unlike most bands, every album they put out offers... They stay true to their music and their sound, which is, I would say, unique. But they still offer good new songs. It's not just fillers. I like Maiden. I really like them. But the first two albums, not so much, actually. I think I started to hate them when I tried to learn Phantom of the Opera from the first album on bass. And it's fucking hard. Because they are uber musicians, all of them. But we decided to learn that song just... so we can show people that we could play when our bands moved from our little village to the little bigger town where we got our first rehearsal room. And we wanted people to think we were good. So we learned that song just to show people that we can play. And it's really hard to play on bass. At least for me, because I'm not a super musician. In any case. I talk so much. Okay. I will tell you... about a few classic albums, because I made my PowerPoint presentation. It's not PowerPoint, it's stuff. Not the first. Yeah, good suggestion too. Okay, so what I show here is an Earache Presents. They did a compilation album called The Grind Crusher. I still have the vinyl. And I've discovered like thrash metal and stuff like that previously, and I never liked the vocals. I found Anthrax and Exodus and all of that, and I liked the intensity of the music, Megadeth, but then I wanted it to be more extreme. And then I found this fucking compilation where I discovered like Morbid Angel, Napalm Death, Filthy Christians, Terrorizer, Repulsion. So much of the goodness. I think Bolt Thrower is there too. I haven't listened to it in ages, but from this album I sort of realized that there is a world of extremer music out there. So this compilation, ugly as it is, it's fucking ugly, but it stands out. So you sort of, when you see it, you realize that, and it looks fairly Swedish or Ukrainian. I'm not saying. And there are like tanks, and so the Grind Crusher compilation. This is where it all boils down to, and this is why I will always, despite Dig and Earache not having the best, reputation at all, it changed my life, and that record label released albums that changed my life for the better, and so it's hard for me to update that view. I will always find it to be important. So the Grind Crusher, I bought that when it came out, and from that point my life never returned. I mean, I was into Wasp and Mötley Crüe, and I tried to find more extreme stuff, Sator, Candlemass, but it failed me because the guys looked really awesome, really, like Mötley Crüe. They looked the part, but it didn't really sound it. Wasp, more both sound, but still. But here, things just connected. And from that point, and this was also MTV played some extreme music and stuff. But this collection, and it's out now on Spotify, but now it's some sort of extended version with 1 million songs. But the original one, this one, try to see if you can find it, and you will see that those guys released all of the major stuff that made extreme metal happen. Very early 90s, like 1990, or I think it was 1990 or 91 that I found this. 1990, I think. And I will have the time to talk about the first classic then. Napalm Death, Harmony Corruption. Ugly fucking artwork, but it worked for me, and this was, very early 90s. Times have changed. On this album, I finally heard what I thought was completely powerful and brutal music. Not just the music, but also the vocals. It's Barney Greenway, who before Napalm was the singer in Benediction on the Subconscious Terror. On this fucking album, they sort of sold out because they made death metal, not grindcore, which they used to do. And I after discovering this album, I traced them back to Scum and From Enslavement to Obliteration, Mentally Murdered EP. But here, it all made sense to me. This is where I found great vocals, great guitar work, double twin guitar work, great drumming. Mick Harris, the Human Tornado, who is here sort of produced beyond his own capabilities, I think, into playing whatever. And you even have like Obituary vocalist, Deicide vocalist doing choruses on one of the songs or two. All of that being sellout if you're like a old school Napalm Death fan, but I wasn't. I was 15 years old, and I heard what great music was about. And I know one guy played this album in like the restroom at my high school. He was convinced it's not a human but a demon on vocals, and that alone, that'll spark my interest. Though I am a bit of a scientific person, not so much a religious person, so I'm pretty convinced it's a human. But it set the standard on how to growl, and to this day, I'm still searching to find my hard, the way that Barney Greenway did here. And to me, this is like the baseline of brutality. There are more brutal albums, there are more melodic albums, but here it just set, the standard for things to come. Suffer the Children, yes. They actually did a video for that one that MTV played. Vanessa Warwick and Headbangers Ball at this time also made, it's not just earache or these great releases, it was also mainstream media pushed it out to everyone. So if you had any interest in extreme music, you would at some point come across Napalm Death, realize that they have an awesome logo and they're cool. And, Napalm Death are still brutal 30 years down the road. Many of the members are not the same anymore, but they still keep doing their shit. These days they're controversial by being, more politically correct than, most bands in the extreme scene. I don't care so much. I mean, they do their thing. But they've always been, they're a grindcore band to start with, so they are more politically oriented than, death metal. But here they sort of sound death metal, and it's Morris sound, it's the Florida death metal production meets European madly brutal music into this, I think, perfect release for me, and it changed everything. So if you play brutal music to me and it's not as brutal as Harmony Corruption, I would say it's not brutal. If it's more brutal, say it's Nile, then it's very brutal. And these guys sort of invented it. There were no albums for them to copy. So at this time, everything that we say is brutal or well produced or tightly played or whatever, these bands did it for the very first time. We still mimic them. We still copy drum patterns or guitar harmonies or growls. All of that were invented by these guys, and I find that to be remarkable. But that is my first classic album out of, I have 10. But I won't talk about the rest of the 9 today because I'm running out of time. But it's good to see that a few of you guys found your way here to my rambling and my fermented grape juice stream. I will keep this coming, but next week I will be joined by Walter and Nine, and we'll talk about great albums with atrocious artwork and albums with great artwork that's fucking suck. And that will be the theme of that stream. So at least 6 albums will be discussed. So that's gonna happen. Are there any new guests that will come that you haven't met before? Yes, I'm starting now to book up for the end of December and January, February maybe. So there will be new bands for you to discover through this stream, and maybe 1 or 2 old guests will reappear, and at least 1 more well-known band, I would say, will also appear at some point. But for today, I spoke about the Blood Orchid release, about Harmony Corruption, and about Earache Grind Crusher. And the fucking Grind Crusher, there's also, I think maybe the most extreme song there. There are many extreme songs for the time, but I think Filthy Christians have the song Fight for Your, Party and Fight for Your, what the fuck it's called? Party and Fight for Your Right, I think. It doesn't really matter if you play extreme, if you can't play more extreme than Filthy Christians did in the early 90s. You have some work to do, and they were fucking extreme. But I also know that Dig from Earache hated them for not wanting to tour. They bashed one of my favorite hardcore bands, which is Dirty Rotten Imbeciles, DRI. They made a song called If You're Hardcore, I'm Not, because they thought that they were sellouts. Filthy Christians is an interesting band, and I should at some point try to find one of the guys and talk to them. I played one of their tunes as a cover, and we really had a hard time with the drum pattern because the drummer plays it wrong. So our drummer had to learn, a faulty drum pattern just so we could do it justice. Long story. Next time, from next week on, because now I know I will do the streams, I will also post an event for each stream, so you can, find the links and stuff. I've been a bit lazy, but I needed some time off just, to find my bearings. But I'm surprised to see that there are so many of you here, and I'm delighted, and I'm thankful, and I will keep it up just because it's great to share some time with you guys. And if there is stuff that you want me to comment on, or that I should consider, talking about, send it to me. You can see my email. It's down here, nefente@netterbird.com, or you can Twitter me. That'll be a surprise, but at Abysmal Alert, or you can just, whatever, write something on Facebook. I'm there. Just let me know. But I'm gonna stop this thing in a short while. But I want to thank you guys for being here, and I hope to see you next Monday, 20 to 21 Swedish time. Until then, skål. Det var fint att ses. See you.